Zain, a young adventurer, moves to a small village for some peace and quiet. On his first day, the village elder warns him about the dark woods where people have disappeared without a trace. Zain, being curious, dismisses it as an old man's tale and decides to explore the woods the very next day. Zain ventures into the woods with his camera, determined to uncover the truth. As he delves deeper, the atmosphere becomes eerie and he starts hearing strange sounds. He finds old abandoned structures and symbols carved into the trees. His camera captures strange shadows lurking in the background. Zain stumbles upon an old cabin in the heart of the woods. Inside, he finds disturbing drawings and old newspaper clippings about people who went missing. Suddenly, he hears footsteps approaching and hides. He catches a glimpse of a shadowy figure entering the cabin, its face partially visible, looking almost inhuman. Realizing he's in grave danger, Zain tries to escape the woods. The shadowy figure begins to chase him and he runs for his life. He gets lost multiple times, feeling like the woods are closing in on him. He finally reaches the village, exhausted and terrified, with only his camera as proof of what he encountered. Back in the village, Zain reviews the footage on his camera. The video shows the shadowy figure in more detail, revealing a twisted and horrifying face. He takes the evidence to the village elder, who then reveals the history of the dark woods, a place cursed by the restless spirits of those who were wronged and never found peace. Determined to break the curse, Zain gathers a group of villagers to perform a ritual to appease the spirits. As they enter the woods at night, the atmosphere grows more sinister and they feel the presence of multiple entities watching them. They set up a circle of protection and begin the ritual. During the ritual, the shadowy figure appears and tries to disrupt the ceremony. Zain and the villagers stand their ground, chanting louder and holding their protective circle. The figure attacks, and a fierce battle ensues between the living and the spirits. Zain manages to confront the figure, using a sacred relic to drive it away. The ritual succeeds in appeasing the spirits, and the dark woods begin to lose their eerie atmosphere. The shadowy figure dissipates, and the villagers can feel a sense of peace returning. Zain, though exhausted, feels triumphant knowing they have freed the spirits trapped in the woods. Zain becomes a hero in the village for his bravery. The dark woods are no longer feared, and people start visiting them without any fear. Zain decides to document the entire experience, sharing it with the world to warn others about the unknown dangers that still lurk in the shadow. It was a chilly night, and the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the deserted highway. Raza and his friends were enjoying their road trip, sharing stories and laughter as they drove through the silent landscape. The car's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating patches of road and the occasional silhouette of trees. As they rounded a bend, Raza spotted something ahead. A young woman stood by the roadside, her hair disheveled and her clothes torn. She looked utterly distressed. Without hesitation, they pulled over to see if she needed help. The young woman, seemingly in her early 20s, didn't say much as she climbed into the back seat. Her eyes were wide and filled with fear, but she remained silent. When Raza gently asked her where she needed to go, she whispered the name of a remote village further down the road. Her voice was barely audible, almost as if she was afraid of being heard. As they drove, the atmosphere in the car grew tense. The woman sat motionless, staring out the window with a vacant expression. Raza and his friends exchanged uneasy glances, sensing something was off. The highway stretched on, empty and foreboding, with no signs of civilization in sight. Minutes felt like hours as they approached the village. When they finally arrived, the woman still hadn't said a word. The village was eerily quiet, with old dilapidated houses and narrow winding streets. Raza pulled over, but before he could turn around to speak to the woman, she had vanished. The back seat was empty, with no trace of her ever being there. Panic set in as they frantically searched the car and the surrounding area, but there was no sign of the mysterious hitchhiker. They decided to ask the villagers if they had seen her. The villagers exchanged knowing looks, and one of the elders spoke up, his voice trembling. "That woman you picked up, she died years ago. She was a local, and her spirit roams these roads, seeking help but never finding peace. Many have seen her, but none can help her." The realization hit them like a cold wave. They had encountered a ghost. As they prepared to leave the village, Raza felt a chill run down his spine. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he saw her reflection once more, sitting silently in the back seat, her eyes meeting his with a haunting stare. Terrified, they sped away, vowing never to return. The night was forever etched in their memories, a chilling reminder of the supernatural encounter they had experienced. The hitchhiker had vanished, but her presence lingered, a ghostly figure in the shadows of their minds. As they drove away from the village, Raza's friend Ahmed noticed something strange on his phone. He had been recording their trip, and when he replayed the video, the hitchhiker's face appeared distorted and ghostly, her eyes glowing eerily. They tried to rationalize it, blaming it on a glitch, but deep down, they knew it was something more sinister. Determined to uncover the truth, Raza and his friends decided to investigate the woman's identity. They returned to the village the next day, asking around for more details. An old man, who seemed reluctant at first, finally shared the woman's tragic story. Her name was Amina, and she had disappeared under mysterious circumstances years ago. Her body was never found, and it was believed that her spirit couldn't rest until her story was told. As they delved deeper into the mystery, strange occurrences began to plague them. Ahmed started having nightmares about the hitchhiker, and one night, he woke up with scratches on his arms. Their car's engine would stall inexplicably, and they often heard whispers in the dead of night, even when they were alone. It was as if Amina's spirit was trying to communicate with them, urging them to help her find peace. Their investigation led them to an old abandoned house on the outskirts of the village, where Amina was last seen. Inside, they found a hidden diary that detailed her last days. She had been pursued by a relentless stalker, and the final entry hinted at a tragic end. As they read the diary, they felt a cold breeze, and the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. Amina's spirit appeared before them, her eyes filled with sorrow and desperation. Guided by the diary's clues, Raza and his friends confronted the stalker, who had been living in secrecy all these years. The confrontation was intense, and as the truth came to light, Amina's spirit finally found peace. The temperature in the room returned to normal, and the eerie presence lifted. They watched as her spirit faded away, leaving behind a sense of relief and closure. Raza and his friends left the village with a newfound respect for the supernatural. The experience had bonded them in ways they couldn't have imagined. They decided to share Amina's story, ensuring that her memory lived on and that others could learn from their haunting encounter.